Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to another video. Have you ever wondered what a legal internship was like? Well, this video is just for you. This video will basically focus on what it is like to have a legal internship. I've made other legal internship videos and those links will be in the description section below, so please check those out. So let's get right into it. So the legal internship vibes will depend on where you go. The internship obviously can vary in many ways. If you work at a corporation, it'll be different than working for a judge. And if you're working for a judge, it'll be different than working for a firm. Small firms will be different than larger firms, and so on. So take all the information I say with a grain of salt. I worked at 2 small firms. I spent almost 1 year in my past firm. So my experience is kind of built up over time. Another way internships can vary is the professionalism. So obviously you are going to be held to a higher standard no matter where you work. Your state rules wherever you are will basically govern everything in terms of ethics. So the idea I want to focus on is that it is not always such a serious atmosphere. Sometimes they are lenient situations where lawyers are joking around and stuff like that. Maybe it's not as serious as one would expect. My experiences were somewhat like that. My first experience was a little more serious. My second internship experience was a lot more lenient. We always got our work done. We took our work very seriously, but it was more of a lenient type of atmosphere, which was pretty nice. Another point to make about professionalism is that in less serious environments, maybe even in serious environments, you might be able to wear whatever you want essentially. Sometimes you might not have to always be in suits, so that's something to keep in mind. This is not something I thought about ahead of time, but that's something I learned. You do not always have to be in suits. Maybe your boss will require it, maybe they won't. Obviously, if you do have to go to court, you will have to wear suits or what have you and dress professionally, but otherwise you probably will not have to. But your boss might require you anyways, especially if they do it themselves. They're probably going to hold you to the same standards of the law firm, or the standard they hold themselves to if it's sole practitioner. The same holds true for earrings and piercings and stuff like that. It's less serious atmosphere. They might let you slide and wear earrings or nose rings or what have you. In more serious situations, they probably will not. Especially when you're going to court, it's pretty much a given. Very serious atmosphere. You do not want to be unprofessional anyway. That would offend the judge. You do not want to leave a bad impression. Trying to find an internship is also difficult at times, but another video of mine focuses on that, so the link will be in the description. So I will not discuss finding an internship or anything of that nature. This focuses on strictly what it's like to have an internship already. Another thing to consider about internships is certification. Your state probably has a certification process, so if you're a legal student, or a law student I should say, then you might be able to get certified through your state bar and your law school, and this will basically give you a ability to do more stuff than a regular intern would be able to do, since you're certified by the state bar. So that will also change your experience. My second internship, I was certified for 3 months, which was basically how long my externship was actually supposed to last, and it extended to another position, so I was no longer certified, but So you will be doing legal research. If you hate legal research, maybe it might be a breath of fresh air, because it will be a lot narrower maybe than what you would do in law school. It was a breath of fresh air to me. It didn't seem as crazy as the legal research we were doing at school. I'm not sure why that might be, outside of us focusing on very specific issues, which can be difficult at times if you cannot find cases that are really similar to the one at hand. But it is a bit different. You will be doing legal writing, another basic of any legal intern really. Another thing to consider about legal writing is that it will most likely be different than legal writing in law school. I discussed in another video, but basically your law school writing is a bit different. You are talking about a broader range of topics. Usually, certain areas are going to be similar. Your application technique, analytical skills, your reading skills, your grammatical skills and stuff like that. All of that obviously applies. It's not going to be that much different, but in terms of the writing itself, you're going to basically write up all types of documents, probably pleadings, motions, stuff like that. So it's going to be different than what you're accustomed to in law school. A lot of these documents have certain guidelines, and there are samples that your lawyer might provide or you might be able to find online, so you kind of have this idea of like what's expected to you, what the general format is. Lawyers always use a very specific format for certain things, so you will be able to see that. You'll basically build on that format with your own analysis, own case law, cases, stuff like that. So it's a bit different than law school, where you most likely would build from scratch, and it would be a lot broader than writing a specific type of motion or pleading or whatever. Your boss will most likely have you sit in meetings, unless you get shunned during those meetings for whatever reason. But my boss had me sit in pretty much all of his meetings that I was actually at the firm for. Me and my boss actually shared one office, so I almost essentially had to sit in his meetings unless he kicked me out. But usually what's going to happen is they will have you sit in their meetings even if you have your own separate office. It's kind of good to see how lawyers interact with their clients. Clients aren't always the same, so some of them might be more hostile. They're usually pissed off if they're the plaintiff because they believe they have been screwed in some way, so they have a certain type of feeling to them essentially, and they act a certain way. Sometimes they are calm, but usually they are very emotional about what happened to them. So it is definitely different from time to time. Everybody's not the same. Same thing with defendants. I've been on both ends a lot of times, so it is different dealing with plaintiffs and defendants. And so yeah, that's something to keep in mind. It's definitely a good learning experience to sit in meetings. Your lawyer might have you actually ask questions, or maybe have you lead the meeting in a certain sense while they're still there. You might sit side by side with them, and they might have you like ask questions or like lead in a certain way. Obviously everything's going to be in a controlled environment because the lawyer is watching you and ensuring everything is going smoothly and perfectly as it would have been if they were doing it themselves. Lawyers might have you go to depositions, so that was not the funnest thing to do for me personally. I kind of don't like sitting there per se. Like, there wasn't that much to do. Like, I was writing notes the entire deposition, but depositions do last a very long time, and it is not the most entertaining stuff. I kind of like having to read the documents afterwards, or maybe like the transcripts and stuff like that. I kind of like looking at the documents, reading the documents, analyzing it for myself. Usually the documents the lawyer gives you are all like important stuff, and they sum up the information. I think it is quicker and easier to understand than sitting at a deposition for hours on end. It's easier to just read it, where the main points are, kind of by even skimming through. At deposition, you can't really like make it go any faster than it's going. Depending where you work, it will also affect whether you go to court. So at the first internship I did, we went to court a lot. It was a criminal defense attorney, so we did go to court all the time. I would usually watch him do his thing and kind of got a feel for being in the court system and stuff like that, how lawyers argued, how defense attorneys argued, how prosecution would argue, and so forth. You kind of get a feel of how everything runs. At my second internship, we did transactional work, but it was mainly litigation as well. It was business litigation as well as real estate litigation, so we did go to court from time to time. My boss went to court all the time, but I usually did not go with him. I did go with him plenty of times, but not all the time. Your boss might also have you interact with clients in other ways, like maybe it'll be like a group phone call, maybe like FaceTime, probably not FaceTime, but maybe a group phone call where the lawyer is talking to the client, might have you ask a couple of questions, or maybe might have you lead the conversation while it's on speaker, so your lawyer can chime in whenever they want, make sure everything's running smoothly, and they'll get all the information from the other side as well. So yeah, that might be something else that happens during your internship. It happened during mine. In terms of client meetings, your boss might also have you review documents with the client while the lawyer watches, or your boss might have you help him or her go through documents with the client, so you kind of get a feel for what it's like to actually produce these documents for your client based on the information you have, as well as going through the document with your clients before everything is finalized to make sure your client understands and agrees with everything you said and how you put it. So yeah, it is very nice to actually go through the procedure itself, but most likely what's going to happen is you might have many different cases, so you kind of won't run through one whole case from beginning to end. Maybe you might if it ends up getting settled, like many cases do, but if it goes through litigation and stuff, you probably won't be an intern long enough to experience the entire thing. Although that would be nice to go from like actually meeting the client to, you know, doing everything like discovery and whatnot, producing documents, and drafting documents, responses, motions, pleadings, what have you, all the way through the end of litigation. But that's probably not exactly what's going to happen. You'll probably have many different cases handed to you, and you'll do bits and pieces of each one, and by the end you'll kind of understand the whole legal process and how to do things. So you will be very experienced, but unfortunately you will most likely not be able to run through a case from the very beginning to the end and all the pieces that go into it in that process. But anyways, that is all I have for you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.